Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from a backyard in Penticton, but it's still sponsored by Pacific Toyota dealers. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name's David Guidrelli. I'm joined by Harman Dial. Day one of Canucks training camp is in the books, and Harm, some big focus on systems, as you and I were just talking about beforehand. Now, we did the live blog at Canucks Army. I know you guys are going to cover this at The Athletic as well, but a big focus of day one of camp, right into the X's and O's, was we're going to create off the rush. We saw defensemen jumping up in the rush in a lot of drills. The defensive zone stuff is, I think, what we're going to talk about the most to start.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from day one of camp is that Adam Foote isn't intending for the Canucks to play Rick Tocchet hockey, copy and paste the system from last year. He's going to try implementing some tweaks, and I think that could drastically change the way this Canucks team plays if they stick with some of these tweaks. I mean, the rush drills from the beginning, usually how camp works is in the beginning they'll have these 2-on-0 or 1-on-0 rush drills. That's fairly typical. But then in the neutral zone regroup drills that they did, there was a heavy emphasis, as you said, on defensemen joining the rush. And not just in the past, it's been, well, Quinn Hughes will join the rush, but nobody else does it. This is clearly a focus on every defenseman. We want them to join the rush, and that's how we're going to create a little bit more offense in transition. The neutral zone regroup, one of the variations had the D joining as a trailer, taking fourth man's ice. And then the other was even a scenario where it was puck is kicked out to the wing and you have a defenseman doing the center lane drive with a winger reading that, okay, a D's jumping up and then reloading back to cover for the defenseman. So the idea being right off the bat, it was, okay, the defensemen are going to be more involved offensively than they were under Rick Tocchet.
So the big question, is it going to work? Because this is something we always talked about with Tocchet, right? Is that it wasn't like he wanted them to play a certain way because this is the best way to win. He looked at it and said, this is the best way to win with the team I have. They tried to do the rush offense thing at camp last year. That was the conversation we were having. Eerily similar to the one we're having right now about the rush offense that they were trying to create. It didn't work. They lost their defensive staples as soon as they did that. So, my question to you, will it work this year?
We'll see. I mean, their D group is significantly better than it was at the start of last year. At the start of last year, we knew that they were going to have puck moving and speed-based limitations with the bottom four, right? It was Susie Myers. It was Forbert Desharnais.
Yep.
And you and I sat here talking about, they want to create more off the rush. And we expressed the concern that, can you do that with this back end? Now that you've got Marcus Pettersson here, you have lost Desharnais, which is addition by subtraction, and DPD, even though he's a defenseman, we know he can wheel up and down the ice.
Yep.
I think this defense group is more equipped to chip in offensively. Even down the stretch last season, we saw when forward injuries hit, obviously JT Miller had been traded. They didn't have any offensive drivers at the forward position. So what happened is the D became a little bit more involved, and that's when we saw a couple goals where Derek Forbert was down at the goal line and he was contributing. Marcus Pettersson, Tyler Myers, they were given more of a green light and a license to make things happen. And yes, it helped, but I think you also saw down the stretch, there was a trade-off defensively where all of a sudden it was more high event hockey post the JT Miller trade. And I think that's going to be the most interesting and the most relevant takeaway is that I think it's going to be a higher event on both sides if they stick with this idea of the D jumping up the rush, because some guys I think could thrive with having a little bit more offensive freedom when you look at the second and third pairs. DPD, for example, he's going to have some growing pains, but I look at him with how well he skates, some of his physical tools, and he has a natural tendency to playing an aggressive style, pinching to keep plays alive in the offensive zone. Even at the prospect tournament over the weekend, we saw that he has puck skills in some sense offensively, and he can join plays. I think he could really thrive with these kind of tweaks. Marcus Pettersson, I think, has the intelligence to thrive there too. The two guys that I would maybe be a little bit I don't want to say skeptical of, but we'll see how they adapt, are Tyler Myers and Derek Forbort. Myers I mentioned because the Myers turnaround story under Adam Foote and Rick Tocchet the last couple of seasons was simplifying his game. It was less is more with Tyler Myers, because when he's asked to make more reads, when he's asked to rush pucks up the ice, it's those second decisions that he puts himself out of position. That would be my worry is, okay, you're incentivizing these guys to join the rush more often, but that means you're a little bit more exposed if the play returns the other way. And it's not just on the defenseman, because now all of a sudden, if you've got your D joining the rush more frequently, that means if you're a forward carrying the puck, for example, you cannot, and you choose to shoot, you cannot miss the net and have it rim around the other side, because that's going to propel a potential odd man rush going back the other way. So you ask me, is it going to work? I don't feel strongly one way or the other about the D joining the offense more. I just think that it's going to lead to more high event hockey.
Which is a good thing. I think a lot of people will say that's a good thing.
From an entertainment standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
Will it actually lead to more wins? We'll see. I don't know yet.
We're going to continue the conversation about X's and O's as well. I want to talk about the line combinations we saw, but before we do that, I want to tell everybody about our friend. Got the arcade, and of course they've got the bar. Always a fun time with plenty of options. I do want to mention this as well. Our watch parties coming up soon. We're gonna have a watch party sometime in October when the season starts, and I like meeting all the Canucks Convo listeners. We met someone at the what's that place called, Jacob? The Pasta Factory. That was it. Yeah, the Pasta Factory.
Yes, at dinner last night.
Yep. We met a listener there. Had a few people say hello at the South Okanagan Event Center today, so we appreciate all the Canucks Convo listeners and the Canucks Army readers who come out and hang out with us. So make ready your spot to chill. Greta Bar, YVR, 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. All right, we've got some anyone else's pouring in, folks. Anyone else? We've got some new people in the chat today. Anyone else is our segment where we answer your questions. We dive into your takes later in the show. Really just anything you want us to talk about, anything you want to ask, feel free to throw it in the chat with AE at the front of your message, and we will read it later in the show. I want to talk about the line rushes, Harm. These were interesting to me. Jonathan Lekkerimäki, who started camp last year on a line with Elias Pettersson, was getting that reward, right, of, okay, you're going to get a top 6 opportunity right from camp. And the other thing that I want to mention before we dive into these lines is last year, the lines they started camp with, those were the lines for the preseason. Like, these players played together in the preseason. There was maybe a change or two there, here and there, but for the most part, these guys got to play together. These were the lines that we saw. So I think that's important context, because we're not just saying this for the fun of it. I think it's important. People say, oh, don't read into the lines. Coaches say that on morning skate, and then they throw those lines out at night every night. So anyways, the forward lines. It was Pettersson with DeBrusk and Besser, Baines with Coots and Sherwood. Those are kind of your top 6 lines. And then in Group B, sorry, that was Group A. And then in Group B, you had Hedel with Evander Kane and Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Then it was Bluger, Höglander, Garland. I don't want to read the bottom 6 ones right now. We'll dive into those later, maybe. And then the defense we can dive into as well. But I did want to focus mainly on those first 4 forward lines that I mentioned. Pettersson with DeBrusk and Besser. We could have seen that coming. The real question with that one was, is it going to be DeBrusk? Is it going to be Kane that plays with Pettersson? Besser needs to build his chemistry with Pettersson. We know this. They're both signed long-term. He's had his best moments with JT Miller. He needs to build that chemistry with Pettersson. I am a big fan of him getting that opportunity right away coming out of camp. Anything on that line, or do you want to just keep going down the list?
Yeah, I no surprise as far as Besser and Pettersson together. It was just going to be, is it Kane or DeBrusk on that left wing? It seems like Foote recognizes that he doesn't have a lot of time to figure things out. Preseason isn't that long, and this team needs to hit the ground running. So the impression I got hearing him listen at the end of training camp session today was that he wants to give that line a look. He didn't want to tinker and experiment too much with that top line. He wanted to go with a look that if they click together, they can run out on opening night. And I think the familiarity factor there with DeBrusk and Pettersson having some chemistry, it gave him the upper hand early. For that trio, the main thing I'm going to be looking for is who's going to stand up and actually bring some juice to that line.
Mm-hmm.
Not to steal an old Rick Tocchet reference there, but that line when they played together last year, they just lack dog in them. You know what I mean? On paper, you look at Pettersson, DeBrusk, Besser, and think, okay, this should be a productive top line. But the problem you ran into last season was that Pettersson wasn't at his dynamic, game-breaking best. So as a result of that, they didn't have zone entries with speed and possession, which meant they weren't manufacturing any offense off the rush. And then they resorted to dump and chase. But the problem was DeBrusk and Besser weren't quick and tenacious enough to win battles. So really it was dump and no chase.
Yeah.
Hockey.
Dump and lose the puck. That's all.
Yeah, it's just you're turning it over and giving it to the other team in their defensive
and hope
zone.
for a mistake. Hope for a mistake from the defense breaking the puck out or retrieving the puck. Hope for a mistake, and then Pettersson's kind of floating to get it. That was the style.
Really, DeBrusk and Besser are both supporting top six wingers.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to drive play. Neither one of those guys drives play. So from a rush offense perspective, Pettersson needs to have that speed through the middle. Because if he doesn't have that speed to the middle, if he's not the one transporting pucks up the ice, then DeBrusk and Besser cannot feast off the rush offensively. Because those guys aren't going to do the transportation element and the heavy lifting to make plays happen. They're complementary guys. Where DeBrusk and Besser have a responsibility to help that line control play is on the forecheck. Because one of those guys is going to be first man in, and that's where DeBrusk... He had a really solid season overall last year, putting up 28 goals despite the centerman that you were assigned to play with completely imploding. Production-wise, he lived up to the hype, lived up to what was expected of him. But on a shift in, shift out basis, he was too quiet when he wasn't scoring, and his forechecking was underwhelming.
Oh yeah,
for a guy that has above average speed, he needs to be more assertive. He needs to be winning the puck back more often than he was last year, and I think that's going to be the key to that line succeeding.
Okay, the second line on paper: Hedl with Evander Kane and Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Now, Jonathan Lekkerimäki will get some preseason time with those two. You would assume going to be hard for him to make the team. We know that. We've known that all offseason as we were doing our previews for what this team was going to look like. I like him getting the opportunity, first of all, but Hedl Kane, let's focus on that duo because that's probably going to stick, it would seem.
Yeah, and I've always liked that idea because Kane, despite not being the fastest player getting up and down the ice, he has a lethal shot off the rush, and we still saw that in these playoffs, and we know that Hedl's bread and butter, his game is finding ways to use his speed to drive controlled entries, and we know that Kane has had experience in the past with fast centermen. He isn't obviously the same player that he was 2-3 years ago, but 2-3 years ago, he was the most dominant goal scorer in the playoffs, playing on a line with Connor McDavid. The first year the Oilers made the Western Conference Final, where they eventually got swept by the Avs that year, Kane was scoring nearly a goal per game, and it was playing on a line with Connor McDavid. So Kane's got experience meshing with elite speed level forwards, and Hedl, of course, isn't Connor McDavid, but he's that fast, stylistic kind of player that is going to want to manufacture rush offense, and Kane has that heavy shot that can beat goalies from distance. So I think you're hoping that those guys can cook offensively, especially Hedl being more of a play driver. It means that Kane doesn't really have to do as much from that perspective. And then we'll see who ultimately ends up on the right wing. It's going to take a hell of a showing and a hell of a camp and preseason, I think, for Lekkerimäki
For sure.
to make the team and start in a top six role to begin the season. I would bet against it personally. We've seen Lekkerimäki and other young guys get an opportunity in prime spots early, but then it not necessarily translate to the start of the season. So the Lekkerimäki portion is a wait and see. But I think Kane and Hedl, I would expect those guys to get a look for quite a while.
Okay, now this third line. Interesting. Teddy Bluger with Niels Höglander and Connor Garland. Now, this one's pretty obvious. Dakota Joshua, Teddy Bluger, Connor Garland. That was one of the Canucks' best lines in 23-24. Looking to recapture some of that magic. Now, they're different players, Höglander and Joshua, of course, they're different players, but they're also kind of similar players. So I get the idea of trying to put this trio together. If you're Jonathan Likermacki, you're hoping that that line has a really, really strong preseason, right? And that Connor Garland isn't just automatically bumped up to the top 6. Because then your chance of making the team, if you're Jonathan Likermacki, gets a lot better. But back to this line, this trio, do you like the thought process of getting those three together right from day one?
I would have liked to see Ratu get the opportunity there. I think he has higher offensive potential, and I want to see if he can grow into becoming something that Blueger isn't. I just worry that Blueger might take a little bit too much off the table offensively. He was terrific in that 23-24 season, but
that was 2 years ago.
We saw him last year, and he did not look 3C caliber. He's a good penalty killer, but with the puck, there are a lot of limitations. He's offensive. He's not a good finisher, whereas Ratu, that was one of his best assets down the stretch, was he can park himself in front of the net, and he's a pretty good finisher in those locations. But I understand that because Blueger and Garland had some success in the past, even if it was 2 years ago, that you would want to maybe give him the first look. But I would have a short leash on that. If Blueger isn't up to snuff there, I want Ratu in that spot ASAP. I like the idea of Höglander and Garland on the same line. They're spark plugs. They drive play. They are absolute pains in the ass to play against. They're going to make things happen down low in the offensive zone. They protect the puck well. They're going to be dogs on the forecheck. And I think the idea there too is if you don't have an ideal 3C, which the Canucks don't have on this roster, then you're relying on your wingers to hopefully carry play for you. And that's where Garland, especially as the more established player, is I like the idea of him doing that. The problem I see, though, is for Garland to be on your third line, you need that second line right wing spot to be held down, whether it's by Likermacki or by a Drew O'Connor or a Kiefer Sherwood. I don't know whether the Canucks have the right second line right winger to afford to have Garland on your third line. That might be a luxury this team can't afford.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is Garland can drive his own line, which is great, but you need someone there on that top 6 line. You're right. So it needs to be a big camp from Likermacki is basically what we're getting at. An interesting young guy that you've talked to today as we kind of close out this conversation about the lines. Well, I want to talk about the defense as well. Forward lines. Close out the conversation about the forward lines. You spoke with Braden Coots today, who started training camp on an NHL line with Kiefer Sherwood and Arshdeep Bains on the other side. But Braden Coots getting the opportunity, again, trying not to read too much into it, but theoretically ahead of Aatu Ratu, who skated with Linus Karlsson and Vitaly Kravtsov on what we have listed as the third line here. Coots with Sherwood today. You had a good conversation with Coots.
Yeah, I don't think the takeaway is, he's ahead of Ratu, but just this guy warrants keeping an eye on through the rest of camp and in preseason. And I'll say this, day one of training camp is a very interesting environment where there are a lot of different factors at play. First of all, the really established vets, like especially the star players, they're not going to stand out because they're kind of coasting.
Yeah. They're warming up. They're warming up for a long season where they know they are going to play in the NHL.
100%. The guys that usually look the best are the fringe NHL players because they have the clear skill level where you look at them and the way they handle the puck, the way they pass it, the way they skate, the way they shoot is miles ahead of, let's say, some of these AHL caliber guys, but they're also trying really hard. So today, for example, P.O. Joseph was off the charts good.
Yeah. Everyone was talking about it. Joseph Mania.
But what you get out of that environment where a lot of rush-based drills, there's no real defending going on. You get a sense of whether players' skating ability is up to par, their shooting ability, and then towards the end when they get into battle drills, you'll get a sense of, all right, who has NHL strength or not. Coots absolutely passed with flying colors and really stood out when it came to the first half of that. The burst that he has in his first two steps is effortless. He is quick. He is fast. His skating is already NHL.
He's a
caliber.
better skater than I realized. Like I knew it was a strength,
same.
obviously. But you just said it. You just said what I was gonna say. NHL. Like he's an NHL skater.
And his shot is already nasty. It's already NHL caliber.
And this is a guy who we're talking about the floor being so high for.
And it's one thing to also elevate pucks from distance and get them bar down, but there were also a couple of rushes where he was closer than the hash marks, maybe about 6 feet away from the net, and he was able to lift it and get a bar down. So it's like his release is quick. He's able to lift it a lot. So that plays. And then when you just think about the fact that this team has no right shot centerman, he, I think, has put himself in a position where, I spoke to him and his goal is to make an impression and sort of do the Jetlachenko thing where Jetlachenko, very similar position, 5'11" centerman, build as a two-way guy, mid first round pick in 2024 by the Flyers. The Flyers had subpar center depth and were really lacking on righties. And Lachenko, despite being an 18-year-old, made the Flyers team out of camp and played 4 games. Now, ultimately, he wasn't NHL ready full-time and was sent back to junior. Yep. And I think I'm not sitting here saying that Coots is going to be NHL ready full-time this year. He should go back to the WHL at some point. But he could make some noise. Yeah. He could at least play himself into the conversation where we're still talking about him late into preseason, because I'm telling you, the way he skates, the way he moves, the way he shoots, and Adam Foote was gushing about how smart he is, how in some of those drills, it wasn't just, all right, you got the athletic tools. Foote spoke about how impressed he was by Coots' understanding of spacing, of understanding when to drive the net, when to hold up, when to be the guy that's ready to scoop on the weak side. So there are enough traits there, especially when you combine that with his compete level, that he could make it tough on the Canucks. The one area that I think could hold him back where he's not NHL ready is the strength element. And he was very honest about this, where he told me, I feel pace-wise and making plays-wise in an NHL training camp setting, I feel very comfortable. It's not really an adjustment. Mm-hmm. But he talked about when you go up in the corner against Brock Besser, when you go into the corner to battle against Aatu Ratu, these bigger NHL-ready forwards, he's expending so much energy, and so he gets tired quicker because he doesn't have the strength. So he's having to, while other guys can win a battle at, let's say, 70% intensity, he's having to go all out in every single battle, and that means he gets tired quicker. And you saw in a couple of those battle drills towards the end of practice that, okay, he gets out-muscle off the puck. And that's a long-term question mark with him, too. He's 5'11". I mean, I was interviewing him. He's around my size. And I ain't NHL size. So that's going to be the one impediment. But he has enough other traits to where he's a guy to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the camp and preseason. All
right, you ready for feud?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Technical producer, Jacob Azar. Do you need a moment, or are you ready to go? Yeah, we need a moment. All right, take it away.
A little bit of a MacGyvered setup here. I've got my laptop stacked on top of a road kit, on top of a roasting pan to elevate it. Our audio interface is kind of just dangling.
A cutting board?
Oh, yeah, there's a cutting board under there as well. But we've made it work. It's time for Family Feud. A new season of Family Feud. I got you guys a really easy survey this week. I figured, you know what? Let's ask some fun questions. There's a couple you just kind of have to listen very carefully. I'm going to speak loudly because
You're scaring me.
I'm sitting a little far away from you guys, so I want to make sure you hear the question. But as long as you listen to the question, you will be fine because there's some very obvious number 1 and number 2s.
We should also explain the game because we have a lot of new people.
That is true.
And it's a new season.
Yeah, it's a new season. So we play Family Feud every Thursday, almost every Thursday. It's the fast money segment of Family Feud. So usually it's Harmon going first now. He'll have 25 seconds on the clock, and I will ask him 5 questions that we put out to the Canucks Conversation listeners.
Yeah, we get 100 responses.
100 responses.
Canucks Convo listeners every week.
Exactly. And we'll go through all 5 questions. He'll give his responses. I'll tally up his score. Quads will go next. If they reach 200 points as a tandem, they get the win. We've been keeping track. You guys did finish with a winning record last year, but I think you were only 3 or 4 wins above 500. So we want to get off to a good start this year. Again, I gave you guys an easier survey. It's the new season, but it's still preseason, so I want to give you guys the option. Now, Quads is going to have to walk. He's going to go back inside the content house here behind me, and he'll. You know what? I think the best would be if you open those blinds there. You can look out, and then Harmon can give you the thumbs up. All right, Harm, you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it. I haven't done this in months, so I feel very rusty, and I hope I don't choke this, but we'll see how it goes.
All right, you'll have 25 seconds on the clock. Your time will begin when I finish reading the first question. Rounded to the nearest 5, what will Thatcher Demko's save percentage be this season?
9:15.
Sorry, there we go. Now I got the timer. I'm gonna pause this here. Again, MacGyver the setup. You're tiny. Timer's big, but we're good. I'll start it again after I finish reading. Rounded to the nearest 5, how many goals will Brock Besser score this season?
30.
Who will lead the Canucks in goals?
Besser.
What Canuck are you most excited to watch play during the preseason?
Coots.
How many Canucks will return from Italy with an Olympic medal of any color? 2 seconds.
1.
4?
Sorry, what?
What did you respond with there?
1.
1. Sorry. Okay. You're good. You can flag Quads back down. I'm going to tally up your score here.
It was all right. It is an easier one.
Let's get settled in.
Is the stream still up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're still going. Oh, yeah, we've got internet isn't great. We are outside, so hopefully that didn't drop at all. But I am in the process of tallying Harm's
people
score.
said we're back. Yeah, we're good. You're doing a great job, Jacob.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, if we got to win this one. If we don't, it's an all-time fumble.
Okay.
This is like the free square in bingo.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to put the pressure on.
It's a good way to get the year started.
Sorry, guys. I'm gonna need you got to stall. I need a bit of time here.
Take your time. You know what else we could do, Jacob? To add to the suspense?
What?
Give me all the questions. We'll start anyone else, and then take all the time you need to tally it up.
Okay, now I think we're good now. I can
sick.
tally up Harmon's score. I got what I needed. Okay.
Karin in the chat, is Fumbelina back for a new season? Stay tuned. Bob Bluger said Quads biceps.
Two other
interrupting Wi-Fi connection. Had to read that.
2 other quick notes from Group A, just skating wise, because again, you learn a lot about how quick certain guys are. Linus Karlsson looks quicker.
Oh, really?
He already looked a bit quicker towards the tail end of last season, but I'm telling you, compared to, let's say, 3 years ago when I first saw him at a prospects tournament in Penticton, dude's skating is night and day. The first time I saw him in person, I was like, that guy can't move, period. I don't even know if he's quick enough to be an elite level AHL player, but he looks quicker. It's still by NHL standards, it's below average, but it's enough to where I'm becoming increasingly confident that he can play 4th line minutes for this team this season. And then Ratu on the other end of the skating thing, his skating looks very similar to last year. Last year we noticed, all right, he's taken a significant step here. This year, you know what it is with Ratu? It's not that his first step or two is that slow. In small areas, he's actually able to get a reasonably quick first 2 steps, which is why I think his skating is still fine enough to hang in let's say a 4th line role. It's just that when he's trying to build up to his top speed after the first couple of steps, his skating is the opposite of effortless. He's not able to get into that top speed no matter how hard he's pushing his legs. And so that is something to keep an eye on. Again, I'm not worried about that from the perspective of, is Ratu not going to be quick enough to play for this team full time, because his skating is the same as it was last year, and down the stretch we saw he belongs at the big league level. But that's something to keep in mind Just when we think about offensive ceiling and whether
yeah.
he could be more dynamic and put up a lot more points, his skating looks pretty similar to where it was last year.
Okay. Jacob, how did we do on feud?
Harmon got 133 points.
Okay.
So that's good. Quads, you need 67.
Okay.
And now I will say, Harm did get a lot of the top answers.
Okay, I can get number
So
twos.
you might get a buzz. And again, for those of you that are new, if he gives one of the responses that Harmon gave, that's a buzz. Normally we have a buzzer. I'm just going to do it verbally because it's too complicated.
Say try again, I'll get it.
Bzz, bzz, try again. So you'll have 30 seconds on the clock. Again, the score to beat is 67. David Quadrelli, are you ready to go?
Yeah, of course.
As you look to go 1-0 Canucks Conversation Family Feud this season.
Yep.
Rounded to the nearest 5, what will Thatcher Demko's save percentage be this season?
915.
Okay, buzz. Zip, zip.
910.
910. I can't add your timer to the stage. There it goes.
You're
okay.
good, you're good.
Rounded to the nearest 5, how many goals will Brock Besser score this season?
30.
Buzz.
25.
Yeah, thank you. Who will lead the Canucks in goals this season?
Brock Besser.
Try again.
Elise Pettersson.
Which Canuck are you most excited to see play preseason games?
Evander Kane.
How many Canucks will return from Italy with an Olympic medal of any color?
2.
2. Good. Okay. That whole time, we got your timer on screen, but
I had a lot of time
we couldn't
left.
actually
Damn.
see you.
I
There we
answered
go.
those quick.
Yeah, that last one, I regret saying 1 because I immediately thought,
PD.
I forgot about PD
Yeah.
on Sweden and the likelihood of them getting bronze.
Because I was thinking Garland and Hughes.
Well, Garland's not making.
Well, he's on
US
the
Olympic
he's on
team.
the invite roster, and I have something on Demko too that came late in the day. about the
Yeah.
Olympics.
Okay, so let's go through these. Sorry, there we go. 67, score to beat. First question, rounded to the nearest 5, what will Demko's save percentage be? You guys both said 915 Quads, then you had to pivot to 910.
Yeah.
That's a good pivot. That was the number 1 answer, 33 points.
Oh, 910 was number 1. Wow.
915 was the number 2 answer with 27. So you guys only need 34 more points here.
Okay.
Let's go.
Rounded to the nearest 5, how many goals will Brock Besser score this season? Quads, you originally said 30, which Harmon also said. That was the number 1 answer. You then went to 35?
25.
25. You went down, which was the number 3 answer. 18 points there. So number 35 was the number 3.
Okay. Number 2.
Sorry, the number 2.
Yeah.
Yes. Who will lead the Canucks in goals this season? Brock Besser was actually the number 2 answer.
Give me PD.
PD was the number 1
Let's
answer,
go.
40 points. You guys
Let's
have
go.
won. We're still going to go through the rest of the answers, but I am gonna give you guys your win graphic, which is absolutely deserved. Okay, a couple more responses to get through.
Take that, Karn.
Which Canuck are you most excited to see play preseason games? Quads, Evander Kane, not in my top
popular?
6.
All right.
But
that's
2
okay.
points nonetheless.
Okay.
Braden Coots was the number 2 answer, Harm.
Oh, good one.
Number 1 was Tom Willander.
Oh, yeah. Someone in the
34
chat said
points.
Willander, too. Yeah, Dylan McDonald.
All right, how many Canucks will return from Italy with an Olympic medal? Harm, you said 1.
Yeah, it was too low.
Yeah, that was actually the number 3 answer. You still got 25 points
Okay.
for it. Quads, sorry, what'd you say? 2?
2.
2? That was
it's
number
not
2
just
answer
gold.
with 29 points. So you guys got to 255.
He repeated the question, and it took 3 times of me repeating it in my head to realize that it wasn't just a gold medal.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah,
Any-
yeah.
Kevin
So,
Langland's going to take home bronze. For
3,
sure. Book it.
3 was the number 1 answer. And also, hey, if the Czechs go on a run, there's going to be 2 Canucks on Team Czechia. So that was an interesting one. You guys did well, though. 255.
Nice.
Absolutely crushed it. No new survey yet. Obviously, we're in Penticton. We've got so much training camp stuff going on. I can't get a new survey up quite yet.
It'll be early next week.
Early next week. Yeah, Monday or Tuesday we'll have it up. So
And
thank you to everyone who filled out this.
As we
week's
get ready to go to anyone else, which we'll close out the show with, should mention tomorrow as well. Friday episode, we're going to do our show early. So late today, early tomorrow, we're going to do it in between groups. So tomorrow, we're going to see Group B go first. Show's probably going to go live around 1 o'clock. And we'll be live from the South Okanagan Event Center. So you can look forward to that. We'll be live tomorrow. And then, like I said, show on Saturday as well, where I co-host with Jeff Patterson. And then we'll be back probably on Monday, I believe. So Let's get to anyone else, which is still a presentation of our friends at the Vancouver Canadians, whose season came to a close, but we want to thank them for their support all summer long. Take a look at next year's season ticket options and make sure you don't miss out. For more information, visit canadiansbaseball.com. All right, I want to get to this quickly. This is my anyone else. Did anyone else hear what Thatcher Demko had to say about being on the U.S. Olympic team? This was the quote. Probably before last year, I probably would have been on that team. Things unfolded how they did, and it's out of my control. I get asked that a lot in friend groups or whatever, but for me, my focus is game number one. And obviously being on the Olympic team would be an honor and something that every guy wants to be a part of. But for me, after what I've been through, my focus has always been on game one and being ready for that. This is the kicker. He said, I truly believe that if I can play up to my standard, that I will be on that team. Which was a nice reminder for me that the Olympic roster invite camp thing that came out last month that had Garland on it but didn't have Demko on it, that's not the end all be all. Like that, they can still invite a guy like Thatcher Demko, like he clearly knows. They can still invite him. So Demko, I love that quote. I love that confidence. The full scrum is up now on the Canucks Army YouTube channel, but I really liked what I heard from the Canucks starting goaltender today. I talked about perspective, talked about being able to run around and play with his kids in the backyard. Dude loves his kids. He actually made sure to say that, which was pretty funny. He talked a lot about his kids, which was great, I thought. So, really liked what I heard from Thatcher Demko today.
Yeah, making the American team will be tough. We know that Hellebuck, Ottinger are going to be 1 and 2, but even after that, Joey Decourt has been a really underrated goaltender. We know Swayman, if he bounces back, he, of course, was part of the Four Nations team. Those guys are also going to be in the mix. And for Demko, it's really about staying healthy first and foremost, and then getting back to the level that he was at in 23-24, because he's right. If last year hadn't happened, then he probably would have been on that American team too. So he's still in the mix, but it's gonna take a really strong bounce back for him to work his way back into the conversation to be one of the top 3 goaltenders.
Okay.
Sorry, something I'll point out, and Karin in the chat. Don't forget about Dustin Wolf.
Another
guy that wasn't on the list, but the U.S. have absolutely no shortage of goaltenders. And hey, obviously, as Quad said, that preliminary summer invite list is just an invite list, right? If Dustin Wolf is absolutely bonkers to start the season,
Like he was last year,
and maybe Ottinger or Swayman or Decourt really struggles, hey, it's possible Demko and or Wolf ends up making that team as a third goal. You never know. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, Colin Whitehead asked this, as we talked about center depth. He's asking about Cole Sillinger from the Columbus Blue Jackets. I know it's training camp. Usually we wouldn't talk about external options right now, but do you like Cole Sillinger as a player?
I think he's okay. I'm not convinced he's a top 6 centerman. Maybe he has that upside in the future, but also he spent some time at center. He spent some time on the wing.
Would probably
He's a shot
cost
first
quite a
player.
bit to acquire too.
Yeah,
Especially
I'm not
right
convinced
now.
he's the answer. They do have Columbus does a lot of talented young forwards, and they're pretty well set at the center ice position, so maybe that would make a guy like Sillinger expendable. But I'd imagine from the Blue Jackets' perspective, Shinikov's asked out. He's the first young forward, if you've got a surplus, that you'd be looking at potentially listening to offers on. And Sillinger's not bad. I just don't think he's a dynamic enough playmaker to... I don't see top 6 center upside in Sillinger. Is the best way I'd put it. One idea I had, by the way, and let me be clear, this is not me advocating for this because I don't think this would necessarily be a great idea, but when we're talking about how there's no top 6 centers to acquire, if the Canucks get off to a hot start and they think, all right, this is a year where we add one more piece, we want to do our absolute best to have the best possible season because that's going to maximize our odds of keeping Quinn. We know that this management group loves Elias Lindholm, even though they let him walk in free agency.
Stop.
If Boston has another bad year, would it surprise you if Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin sit there going, why don't we explore a potential Lindholm reunion? He's well liked in that locker room. Again, I don't think he's dynamic enough offensively to
That's a crazy.
succeed as a contender's 2C at this stage in his career. But
And he's only getting worse.
yes, but also he's probably if he was available, he's still probably the best center on the market, on the trade market.
I guess it'd be.
I'm not saying this is what I would do. I would not do this. Let me make this clear. I don't like his contract.
I'm trying to get with you. I love when you do stuff like this, when you bring up stuff like this. But even for me, this seems a bridge too far.
Again, I'm not saying I would do this. I'm just saying, would you be surprised if Canucks management would explore that possibility?
A little bit. Honestly, I would.
Maybe, but I don't think it's.
Rajcraft in the chat says, this feels like a quads take. It's like you lost a bet and you had to say this because I told you to.
Again, I would not do this. But we know the center market sucks.
You know what? I'm on board. I like this. I like. Look, you have to.
I'm just
over
thinking.
Every stone.
I'm just thinking like outside the box of what could this team do that could shock us, right? Or how are they going to solve this need? Who's out there? There are probably still other players I would explore, but like half the league is looking for a second line center at this stage, right? You're not going to get, as much as I love Mason McTavish, you're not getting Mason McTavish for the Vancouver Canucks. And so yeah, it was just a random thought I had while driving up to Penticton. Because you have to keep in mind, too, even if they don't view him as the ideal 2C, they still need a stud guy who can take on tough matchups, defensively, right shot centerman who can win a ton of draws, which they don't have since JT and Bo have left, as far as a faceoffs aspect. And you know that for management, they probably felt high on him after the playoffs that he had, where he was pretty good. So that was just a thought in my mind was, what if they get a little crazy at some point and at least explore the possibility?
I love it. I love it. Okay. Troy Sander asked if we think the media, if people are underrating the Canucks forward group. 5 players on this roster who have either had 20-plus goal seasons or have been on pace for one.
No, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's subpar now with their back end and with their goaltending. Could it be good enough that that you make the playoffs? Sure. But the problem I see with the Canucks forward group isn't that, this team lacks good players. What I see are actually an abundance of second and third line wingers, right? You've got a lot of players in that tier. What I don't see are enough drivers that I look at and go, you're a first line driver. You can put up 70 points in a season and you're a legit star, right? And that's where I look at DeBrusk. It's like, yeah, he's a top 6 player, but he's on a contending team, like a supporting second line kind of a guy. I love Brock Besser. If he's playing on your top line on a contending team, he's not going to be the guy. He's a complimentary piece. Like, he scored 40 goals once. I don't know if he can do that again. A fair expectation for him is 30 goals, which is great production. You're a legit top 6 player, but that's not star level kind of production. And same thing with Garland. He's a 50-point guy. I love Connor Garland. He's an excellent play driver. He's great defensively. But like, these guys all have a ceiling, and if Pettersson isn't a dominant 1C, they're just not going to have enough star power among their forward group. And the thing too with DeBrusk, Brett Besser, Kane, they're all supporting, complementary. Like, none of those guys transport pucks up the ice, make plays off the rush themselves. They're not dynamic. They do their best damage when other players set the table for them. And so that's where, because of the uncertainty around Pettersson, because of the health uncertainty around Hedel, you just don't know if you're going to have enough drivers to unlock the best versions of some of the wingers that you do have. And even like, I love Höglander, but in terms of like further down the lineup and making things happen, but is he going to run into the same issue that he did under Rick Tocchet, where is Foot going to trust him defensively? So I still don't like Vancouver's forward group.
Okay. Anze Kopitar announced this is his last season. So did Clayton Kershaw. I'm sure you saw that. you know Clayton Kershaw.
Of course.
Very well. Yeah. Okay. So Kopitar, last season for the Kings captain. All right. You ready for Bet365 or anything else you want to get to? We're gonna obviously have a show tomorrow as well.
Yeah, we can save the other part for tomorrow. I think what we let off the top, as far as talking about like some of the systems tweaks with Foot, it was also fascinating that they're going to be trying some different stuff as far as defensive zone coverage and pressuring the points. But I guess we can spend some time talking about that tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that tomorrow. And again, I'm thinking the work will continue. So
Yes, and I will say there's been a lot of questions about different players, about Lekromaki, Ender, saw something in there about Vilmer Ulrichsen. We can get into that tomorrow as well, right? It was just day one at camp. We've got shows the rest of the week, so keep those questions coming in. If we didn't get to it, if we didn't talk about a player you were interested in, hey, come back tomorrow, come back on Friday, or tomorrow is Friday, come back on Saturday, and we'll get to as many of those players as we can.
yeah, we're very busy this week. We've realized there's lots going on here in Penticton, but we'll be back tomorrow. Let's get interceptions. 2 interceptions for Tua Tagovailoa. We're at plus 310 odds. You can get that. That's what we're taking for Thursday night.
What a
football.
hater.
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, Dolphins, Bills, that one's tonight. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, we will close it out there for my co-host Harmon Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar. My name's Dave Pedrelli. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.